Second meeting of the
Thanks for being
month
our
for
crowd.
April. Springtime weather is here. I'd like to ask everybody to stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First, some financial things that wasn't on there, just got slipped to me on the way up. I'd like to make a motion to approve prepaid vouchers for the general fund, $7,677.31. For the water fund, $1,750.66. And for the sewer fund, $139.98.
Second.
That was all those vouchers we just
Vouchers are down there for your signature.
Second, third.
Any questions?
So early.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Okay. Next, task order number 27. Task order number 27 is a culmination of all of the work that's been done for almost 2 years now on our grant application to the DEC for Asher Dam.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So I put together this task order with time bond, and it's all encompassing to include the review of our records and documents, on-site inspection and investigation, review, calculations and conclusions of the task, and engineering assessment and general report, plus task number 5, which is the low-level outlet plug and underwater investigation is included in this work. Okay, so the total cost for this project, there's details in there, but the total project is $70,400, which does not include the money we need to actually fix the valves. And we're getting quotes, and our quotes that we put into the budget process for doing all this to fix the valves was around $5,000, right?
Okay.
So we put money in the budget to cover not only this work, but to then, we put $4,500 in our budget to actually do the valve repair after we plug them.
Right.
And then the contractor who does the valve repair can just kind of pull the plug on the balloons,
Right.
and hopefully
Right.
we're done. I want to get started on this work. I don't want it to become billable until we get into the fiscal year 25-26. That's when our budget is doable, but this allows us time to line up everybody to do it. I want to make note that this is,
I mean, if we receive a bill anytime in the next 5 weeks on this, I'll be very surprised even if you make a
well,
phone call tomorrow.
Yeah.
but I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that when DEC approved this, they approved Time Bond as our contractor.
Okay.
So Time Bond being the contractor, we do not have to go out for an RFP to do any of this work,
Oh, that makes life easier.
right? So it's really a very straightforward project that's been approved by the DEC, with Time Bond being the contractor to get started on this. Morrison was supposed to be here at 3:30 in case you had any specific questions, but he's either running late or got delayed, but I don't, if you do, we can answer those questions. Speaking of the devil, Ryan was supposed to be here, so I'd like to make a motion to approve task order number 27 for Asher Dam.
Second.
Discussion,
So the grant was for $49,000?
$49,500.
Right. Okay.
And then our contribution, and
Was-
then our payment for the repair of the actual valves, which is not included into this.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So the total's gonna be about $75,000-ish.
Well, he was not involved in the valve repair part.
But I do remember, I did see a communication, there was like approximately
Yeah.
$5,000 set aside for the valves.
Right.
So that sounds about right.
Okay.
Our proposal was 70,000,
70,400.
yep, plus the 500 for or 5,000 for the
Right.
valve replacement.
Okay.
So I have a question about the water level. What will happen with the water level? I know that came up in.
Water level doesn't change. We're not impacting the water level. That's why we're bringing divers in to do the inspection and all of the work that is required. Unless maybe the diver comes back and says blah, 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 blah.
So a couple things that could happen with the diver, right? The diver ideally, there's a little silt built up. The diver will be able to brush that silt away from the intake, be able to assess what the condition of that intake is, and then seal it so that you guys can do the valve work separately. But if something comes up during that dive assessment that we couldn't see from water level, that the diver can see below level, there may be a future reason to have to lower it to fix those intakes. But as long as the intakes are still in good condition and we can plug them, the water level will remain the same.
How deep is the lake at the dam?
I know that. But I don't remember that.
Like, I mean,
I think
ballpark,
it's
like 4 feet or like
15.
15 feet? Okay.
Yeah, we think the intakes are about 8.5 feet below the
Right.
surface of the top of the dam.
Okay.
And so, but there's some bathymetric surveys. Part of our proposal is to do a bathymetric survey upstream and downstream of the dam, so we'll have a little bit better information about that.
Yeah.
Likely at one point it was 15 feet, it may have filled in with some sediment over time.
Actually, I want to think it's 11. The
Okay,
number that came back to my mind now is 11.
11. I don't remember.
Don't quote me.
Oh.
Don't quote me.
Okay, so that'll be like something that, like, this is all part of what you're doing for us?
Yeah, we're gonna have a bathymetric survey done both upstream and downstream, so we can,
What is the bathroom?
bathymetric is what is the ground elevation below the water.
Okay, got it.
And you gotta remember, this is all required for us to have a dam. This inspection was something that was never done since 2012.
Right,
All of the easy stuff was done.
right.
The surface level inspection, the exterior, all that other kind of stuff. But this work was never done, and it is a requirement for us to do it. So this is DEC mandated work that we're doing as part of our dam inspection.
Correct.
The dam
Do
inspection.
privately owned dams have to do the same kind of stuff?
Yes.
Do they?
No. I shouldn't say it that clearly. A lot of
In
times what we
general, no.
find, in general, what we find is if a dam has been left in private hands and it's changed owners over time, that management perspective of it goes by the wayside unless the state compels the private landowner to do so. Usually there has to be a mechanism to do so. There's many occasions where we find like a dam's owned by an HOA and then there's a way to compel a group of people to pay for it.
Right.
But when there's an owner who may live in another state, or it's really hard to compel them to do these assessments. But when they're in public, typically they're being watched over and being checked. Every 10 years is the requirement for these engineering assessments. The one that was done in 2012 was found to be insufficient at the time because they only did the easy stuff. They didn't do some of the H&H analysis. They didn't do, there's a request for some overflow analysis related to the overflow weir that goes off to the side there, and then understanding the capacity of the intakes to draw down. And because the valves don't open, or one of the valves don't open and the other one is aged and only opens a little, their capacity to draw down is highly limited.
So that's the purpose of the valves, is to lower the lake?
If you needed to lower the lake for the purposes of repair or fixing of the dam, you want to open the valve to bypass the top weir of the dam, and then you'd be able to do your repair work to the dam.
Got it.
And then close the valves and bring the water level back up.
Which is what they did in Hurricane Irene.
Right, they just
For
opened the
those who were
valves.
here, we lowered, the dam was lowered. The dam was actually repaired at that time
Got it.
as well, through FEMA reimbursement.
Irene was 2011?
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, do you have any idea how many, I know that there's like 4 dams downstream at least. Do you have any idea?
I don't, but I think there's a state mapping system. I was thinking about the bridges downstream. There's, I think, 3 bridges that it crosses downstream.
Yeah, and I know that the Route 9 bridge, part of what DOT is doing is making the, opening the opening more.
Yep.
And because I also know that there's 2 privately owned dams upstream.
1,
2.
2.
I'd be curious if they're both mapped with the state.
One of them is the ice pond, and then there's another one that looks like a beaver dam, but I
Near
know
the-
it's not.
Well, there's one official dam, and I forget the name of it, but it's upstream and it's part of the Landsman Kill.
Right, it's part of the, it's
Yeah.
what created the ice pond, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not positive, but it would be pretty common for a dam to be used for ice pond purposes back in the day. So
Right.
it's usually, those are usually earthen dams with, again, an overflow associated with them, so.
Got it. I'm just sort of curious, like, if any of those dams fail upstream,
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
The one on Mill
right,
is, and was been highlighted, and I've highlighted it to the town, that needs, it's on private property.
Okay.
And that one is part of controlling the landsman kill.
Right.
We've had our Marist students even up there to look at it and do it.
Okay.
But I have put the ownership back on the town to make sure that that dam is secure.
Right, because it's not.
Right, if that were to break through in a major hurricane, it could be catastrophic for us.
Right, okay.
That's the only one I'm aware of upstream.
Is that above or below the bridge?
Above. Above that bridge that comes
And you access to it via,
private property. It's all on private property.
So you don't talk about the choke point?
Right?
The choke point
No,
that goes to the house?
It's a way above that,
Way above it, okay.
way above that.
Oh, let's stop there.
Could I ask a question?
Not yet.
Clarification?
Not yet. We're in the discussion mode here first.
We do anticipate that in the H&H study, there may be some hydraulic capacity issues that come up with the dam. Obviously, we need to do that study before we do it, but based on the old findings, we think that there could be a problem meeting the capacity requirements. So we want
like
to
the
go through
actual
that process.
size of the valves aren't big enough or small enough? or
More of
something?
the overflow.
Remember, those valves are
Define overflow.
not flood control valves.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not, that we just used them, we've been able to use them as that, but
So-
they're not- that's not their purpose.
Okay, so treat me like an idiot.
Yep.
Explain how a dam works.
Under normal conditions, there's the large weir that crosses across the Landsman Kill at the end of that pond.
Right.
And under normal, regular, day-to-day conditions, it overtops that dam just over the top.
Right.
Under a flood control condition, you have an overflow weir which goes around the side of the dam and back down to the stream bed. It's not the normal height of water, it just provides a secondary spillway for water to get down to the
So
low
not
point.
just like over the top, but like,
Off to the
It's that
side.
stone-
Off to the
It's
side.
the stone structure?
Yeah.
The rough stone structure that's
right,
close to you when you're standing there looking at the dam?
And it's elevated above the dam.
right, which makes sense.
Because we never would want the water to be that high, unless it was a storm event and it was gonna be a small period of time, it was gonna be that high.
Okay,
The requirements, I believe, are 150% of the 100-year storm need to be able to pass through that area. And based on observations by both the village and Ty and Bond, we think that there may be a capacity issue there. We can't be positive of that until we do the study itself.
yeah.
But just to prep the board for an understanding about what we would be evaluating and what may come out of that. That's one of the pieces in this task is a H&H evaluation for flood control so that we understand what water elevations would be per the DEC's requirements.
Okay, so then the purpose of the valves isn't flood control, the purpose of the valves is literally.
Maintenance.
Maintenance, okay.
Now, in, like the town said, in certain scenarios, we've used it, the town, or the village has used it, sorry. The village has used it for the purposes of opening and lowering the water level and providing a secondary way for water to escape the dam. And
So
that's,
instead of like waiting for it to get to the
Yeah.
overflow thing,
We've-
is there a recommendation on whether or not that's appropriate?
to be honest, that's not my field of expertise, and I would, the report will certainly name that as like what to do in certain storm conditions.
Okay.
I would say you're not the only municipality to ever use that method.
The
Okay.
Marist kids actually did a study about how many cubic feet those
Yeah.
valves can move.
Marist has.
The Marist,
Okay.
and it's pretty nice. And yeah, we did it a couple times anticipatory
Yeah.
for some big storms.
Because it sort of feels like, I mean, like, I don't know, I look forward to seeing the report,
Yeah.
because like, if there's like a way that water usually flows, then okay, in like an overflow situation, it does this, then like, why are people out there in the middle of a storm, like, you know?
The only
doing this thing?
downside I can think of is because of the constricted general nature of the pipes themselves, velocities of water exiting that pipe could be erosive.
Got it.
And so, yeah, I think so too.
It's pretty stuff.
So I would have to look at it one more time to kind of understand it. That's the only like downside I could think of to using those to help with flood mitigation.
So,
Got it, okay.
for clarification, we do not do this during the storm. We
Okay.
do it in anticipation of the storm
Okay.
to give us excess capacity to
So that we don't get to the point.
let the reservoir fill up and in time to handle the runoff so we can then do it. So we will go down, and that's what the Marist study says, if you have a 2-inch storm, open the valves X amount of hours ahead.
Got
If you
it.
have a 3-inch storm, open them X amount ahead.
Okay,
So we're doing it in preparation, although sometimes in a major storm, very seldom, we've left it open during
During
the
the
storm.
storm, okay.
But we've always dropped it in anticipation of a major storm
got it.
to do ahead of time.
Do we have, or is this part of your report or anything, there's obviously a bunch of houses and a bunch of structures around the lake. Do we know how, do we have an idea of like, at what point does the flood hit the structures?
Yeah, part of the H&H that's in task,
In this task force?
yeah, task 3 of the task letter,
Okay,
is to figure out what water surface elevation would be at that 150% of the 100-year storm.
Okay.
And in that analysis, we can correlate it to structures once we understand what that elevation is.
okay, because I mean, like, obviously the point of this is to like maintain like lake integrity, but the human structure
Yep.
problem is the one that ends up being the most expensive and the most,
Which is
impactful.
why we've been doing the study to lower it.
Right, in advance.
We have
Right.
found that has helped.
Right,
Not so much because the lake capacity itself, but water builds up as upstream,
right,
and that's where the flooding occurs. And if we can get that water upstream down, we have less flooding upstream. So it's not
that's
about
like
the
that
lake.
little like,
Right.
where that little bridge is in the house and the
Right,
tiny little
yeah.
bridge that's
Yeah.
always
That's
flooded
a choke
after a
point.
storm, that's a choke point, okay, got it.
Well, actually, yes, in that area
Okay, so
where
the idea
houses are
is,
along the stream,
right,
we can actually
sort of.
lower the stream volume.
Right, so, okay.
So that capacity, when it comes, doesn't rise higher there.
And it gives,
They're not studying that.
No, and I wouldn't expect you
it gives
to.
you a greater gradient too, I guess, in theory.
I mean, I was specifically thinking like the structures specifically around Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not where our flooding has occurred.
Our flooding occurs upstream. Got it.
Yeah.
Because Crystal Lake is big enough to just sort of handle the bathtub, right?
Well, the properties are higher than what they are.
I mean, the one was bad, it overtopped by the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It was really bad.
that was
That's
hurricane.
the
Yeah, that was
emergency
Yeah,
we're,
that was hurricane.
over the end of the-
Incredible.
yeah, that's impressive.
All right.
Any more questions from the board? Good question.
I just want a clarification. Is it the case that the valves, you already know the valves are bad and they'll be replaced? Or is part of this study to determine that? Because
Now, we already know the valves are
you
bad.
know that.
We know that if we open them, we can't seal it up tight again.
Okay.
So.
So you know you're gonna replace them?
We're not replacing, we're gonna fix them.
Okay.
And hopefully it's repacking and seals. And the contractor will be able to tell us that. But we're not gonna lift them out of there with a crane and put new ones in. We're gonna fix the ones that are there.
Okay.
We know that we can't. If we open them, we could probably not close them.
Sounds like a problem.
Right.
Well, just the lake will descend.
But that was-
It's happened before, so.
He was more, he was more interested in being able to seal them off
Yeah, no.
so that we could do that work.
How about the older one that's down below? It has no valve.
Older what one? Older dam?
Older, I don't know what you call it. You got the two valves on the east side.
We have two big
You
tubes
also have one-
and we have two 8-inch valves on
On the west
the
side,
north side.
access through a, by,
Yeah.
They're fine.
Okay.
They're like water shut-off valves that we use in the village. Turn the crank, open them,
Yeah.
and close them. So they are functioning.
Okay.
It's only the larger ones that are not.
How big are the larger ones?
They're big.
I don't remember.
16?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
They're big.
They're big.
They are big.
I just came across a picture of you and I opening. Spinning the wheels.
All right.
All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right. Law enforcement technology grant purchase request.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
Yes, Ryan.
Do you need me for anything else, Gary?
Not now.
Later.
Later.
Thank you. Sorry about running late, guys.
That's all right. Glad you made it.
Just did it right on time.
Actually working,
Yeah.
just in time.
Where is the, which one is this, task order or is it training?
Register was next.
What is it?
Register was.
Police purchase.
I know law enforcement in the online.
Police purchase request?
I don't see, oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm not even reading. All right. So this is, we had money left over from our, Martina, I forget which one it was from. the radio purchase.
Yes.
This was money left over from the radio purchase to purchase additional equipment using the existing grant money that we already have. So the total purchase price is $3,775. Docking stations, warranty, and a new computer.
But
So,
how come all these quotes are so vastly different?
well, I'm looking at, well, we can pick which one you want.
Telrepco, that's the three.
I mean, yeah, the Telrepco is
Way lower.
3,700, but then Dell is like
And
17,000.
I was unable to get in touch with Pete today to figure out what these are for.
So
They
should-
have such a
So
lot.
I'm flying blind on these purchase requests. So one is for $9,091, and that is from Technology Support Business. The second one is from Dell, is for $17,206. And the other one is from PCO, $3,775.
They aren't all for the same thing. So-
Yeah.
So these
So
aren't like,
Martinez,
Yeah, they-
Danielle over there?
yeah, they're not like 3 different bids.
I don't know, because nobody came over to help explain this.
Maybe we should punt this in May,
I'm happy with that.
unless Martinez.
They're recommending CMI Tech.
Because,
It's the lowest one in its state.
And it's enough, the thing about it is like the Dell has looks like a NAS.
I think we need to
attached
punt
it.
on this until May, because these aren't actually 3 comparable quotes.
Right.
Agreed.
They're not all quoting the same thing.
So Karen is also suggesting that this be done prior to the year end.
That's
we
fine.
can do that.
We can, yeah.
We'll get there.
We have 5 weeks.
All right, so let's table this until the next meeting, so we get more clarity on what these are for.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is certification of completion at Crystal Lake. This was received today, certificate of substantial completion. This is from Ty and Bond. The work to which the certificate applies has been verified and authorized representative as the contractor engineer. The punch list of items to be completed or corrected is attached and has been completed by the contractor. To my knowledge, not only trustee Lewitt, but trustee Pucko and our engineering team has looked at this and said the work is done to spec.
Great.
Yeah, they came and recompacted the pathways, so they're hard. I think you rolled a walker over them.
Yeah.
See the acid
How'd it
test.
go with Walker?
How'd it go?
It went very, I mean, it just rolled like perfectly, and I leaned on it and you couldn't even see, you couldn't see a track, so.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
hopefully this is.
So I'd like to make a motion to sign the certificate of completion for the Crystal Lake improvement.
Second.
Second, yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Glad this is done.
Yay.
Yeah.